Good morning. My name is Crichlow, and we're here with former economics lecturer at the Bermuda College, Craig Simmons. And so Bermuda's Love, we've started this campaign talking about the commodification and the financialization of housing. We all recognize that people are struggling to pay rent, pay mortgages, there's an increase of homelessness, and it really is a big divide of economic inequality within Bermuda. So Craig, could you just talk to us about what is economic inequality?
But there's two types that come to mind initially: income inequality and wealth inequality. Wealth inequality is going to be, wider than income inequality because wealth is the accumulation of disparate incomes. So let's talk a bit about income inequality, largely because we can measure it a little easier. But over the last quarter of a century, since 2000, the data that's coming out of the Department of Statistics points in the direction of growing inequality, income inequality, between blue-collar and white-collar workers in Bermuda. So in the white-collar sector would be folks in international business, where the median salary is north of, say, $170,000, median people, the middle person, as opposed to the average. Whereas other areas in sort of white-collar would be banking, generally finance, even teachers would be considered white collar. Blue collar, construction, workers in the hospitality sector. If you look at the median salary in the hospitality sector, it's around $40,000 a year. You juxtapose that with what folks are making in international business, there's a factor of 4. So you can imagine how over 25 years that factor of 4, when you look at wealth, is going to be even wider. So blue-collar sectors, construction, the hospitality sector, folks that work in retail, wholesale, transportation, those tend to be the blue-collar sectors that have seen their inflation-adjusted incomes decline over the last 25 years. Whereas in the white-collar sectors, their inflation-adjusted incomes have increased. And so you've got this growing disparity between blue and white-collar workers. It's revealing itself in sort of insidious ways in our society. Oftentimes we're not able to identify it, but you have to wonder about things like gang violence, the emigration of people from Bermuda going to the UK. Something like a parachute load of Bermudians are already living in the United Kingdom. They picked up and left. I'm assuming because they didn't see a future in Bermuda. So inequality, it's causing problems because our population is in fact declining. Once upon a time, it would have been well over 60,000, heading towards 70. Now there are questions about whether it's 50 or 60,000. So there are some serious issues that come out of growing income inequality. Not to speak about the wealth inequality.
So how does that kind of manifest itself in the real lives of people? You touched upon it in terms of gang violence. What about just having to meet one's basic needs? When you have a large group of persons being able to afford large-scale properties, where you have another group of persons not able to afford that, what does that really mean for Bermudians?
Yeah, the disparity. So one disparity that you didn't mention, and that's overseas travel. So Bermudians regularly take well over 100,000 vacations per year. And I would venture to guess that most of those vacations are taken by white-collar people. You mentioned housing. Well, there's a shortage of housing in Bermuda, which is going to drive rents up, which will make paying rent, which can consume anywhere from a quarter to in excess of 35% of a household's income, make that chore, paying a monthly rent, a bigger chore, and forcing households to make a decision about, well, do I pay rent, or do I buy groceries, or do I get medication, do I pay my health insurance? Working class people every day are having to live on the edge. And we know from psychology that people who live under that kind of stress, their ability to make reasonable, sensible decisions is pushed to the limit. Because if you're at work and the only thing you can think about is, can I make rent at the end of this month? Will I be able to provide lunches for my children this week? That particular worker is not going to be focused upon the job at hand, what they're getting paid to do, because they're distracted. So I can't possibly quantify that, but I can only imagine what it must be like to be living on $40,000 a year and dealing with the stresses of making rent.
What are some of the solutions that you may see to address the economic inequality that is present?
Some of the solutions come from government intervention, things like targeting households that are living below the poverty line, which are defined as, say, a half of or two-thirds of the median income. Median income in Bermuda is around $70,000. So if you did two-thirds of it, we're talking about any household that's pretty much 6,000 or less. Targeting those particular households, government can with tax credits, financial assistance. But there's also social things. So we rely heavily on the market to distribute goods and services. And the market's pretty good at it. But the market has its limits. And I know that there are businesses in the community that are wanting to sort of go beyond the market. For example, grocery stores. It's no secret that grocery stores throw away about a third of the produce that they bring in. And I also know that grocery stores are eager to do something about that. So here you have moving outside of the market and sort of dealing with what we'll call social norms, where businesses now are saying that they want to do more, they need to do more, and it's not about demand and supply, it's about meeting the social need. Similarly, in the housing market, we can sort of push those social norms as well. That's something I think we can explore on Friday evening in the Chamber of Commerce. Where we can look at models that have been employed in the United Kingdom, sort of mixed-use housing, connecting people. One of the problems that I see in Bermuda is that middle-class people have effectively deserted our working-class neighborhoods. So you've got this segregation by class. I think part of the solution has to involve high socioeconomic status people making meaningful connections with low socioeconomic status people. That is definitely a solution, if you will. And part of it would involve people living in the same spaces as we would have 50 years ago. We would have had the doctor, the laborer living on the same street. Whereas now the doctor, the accountant tends to have left the neighborhood. Now you have sort of a neighborhood of working class people as opposed to a neighborhood of mixed people. So those are some of the things that we need to talk about, things that we can reason over at the session on Friday. So I would encourage people to come out and have a reason. Reasoning, as my Rastafarian brethren would say. It's not all about sort of coming up with concrete solutions from experts. It's really about people coming out and sharing what they know and what they feel, and we can put all that in the mix and begin to move in a positive direction. So I'm hoping that you will come out and share your thoughts Friday.
Thank you so much, Craig. And yes, as he mentioned, we'll be having a panel discussion and social housing forum, essentially, where we'll be talking to Craig Simmons as well as Umar Deal from HERM about the problem of economic inequality and how that affects homelessness within Bermuda. And yes, we need everyone to be part of this solution, everyone sharing their experiences, as well as the solutions to how we can address the challenges that we face within the housing crisis within Bermuda. So that's on Friday from 5:30 to 8 at Bermuda Chamber of Commerce.